Hey there, this is Steve Kern, and you're listening to Live in Color with Wolfie D. Stay tuned.
Hey, this is Jimmy Street, host of the Live and in Color with Wolfie D podcast. Hear the life and times of professional wrestler Wolfie D. From his time in the territories with PG-13 to his time in WWE, ECW, WCW, TNA, and more. Nothing is off limits and nothing will be held back. Thanks again for tuning in. Here he is, Wolfie D.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one and all. This is the Live and in Color with Wolfie D podcast. Wolfie D, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great today, man. How are you, Jimmy? Good to hear from you.
Good. Yeah, man, I'm good. I'm just excited to get your story out to the world, you know. I've been a fan of yours really since my younger days, but when I met you, I became even more of a fan. It's cool to be able to call you a friend, too. So I'm just excited to be able to get your story out to the people that want to hear it. It kind of came as a light bulb. I was like, Wolfie tells all these great stories on Facebook, and nobody ever gets to hear them unless they're watching his Facebook. And so I decided, I think this is the perfect time to get Wolfie's story out there. And I think you're the guy, you know, it'd be best from the horse's mouth, right?
Right on, man. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Thank you for appreciating me.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I remember, I'm not going to bore the people with this, but the first time that we met was at SAW, NWA SAW. I think it was just SAW at the time. And I was sitting in there, and I was pretty new to the business. I was sitting in there, and I was doing a manager gimmick, and there's Wolfie D. And I'm like, holy cow, I just saw this dude for years on not only TNA, but I mean WWE, WCW, ECW. I mean, back in the day, but then you would have this brand new look. And it was like an amalgamation of Slash, your TNA gimmick, and then, but you also were doing this new kind of thing. And I was like, holy cow, there's real people working in this industry. I thought it was just guys that were on the indies with me. So kind of gave me hope that maybe I was in the right place, you know?
It kind of depends on, I guess I'm not sure what TJ was running like around. Was that late 90s or early 2000s or something like that?
Well, yeah, he started running around that time. This was actually around 2011.
Okay.
You would kind of come back.
You go through a period where you start out in the wrestling business and you work your way up, you get your run, and then if it stops, then you kind of do other stuff after that. And that's where I met you at SAW and TJ's. And there was good shit there, man. That was just, I don't know if you recall, but me and Cahagas had a hell of a match there where I brought that. Were you there the night I brought that band?
I was. I do, yeah.
That was good stuff, man, for an indie show and stuff like that. So there's highs and lows to the wrestling business, and especially when you're somebody like me that's been in it for since I was 15. You just you flow with it, man. You flow.
Yeah. Well, I remember watching that match, and it was a sellout at the curtain in the back. Not only was all the seats full into the building there, but we were also all watching it from the back, and it was like watching that King Kong versus Godzilla out there. It was amazing.
It was a good match, man.
You know, I've always been a big fan of Gary Hart, and he was always a guy that I thought I could manage, you know, but there was no way you were going to be a bad guy anywhere. They couldn't boo you if they tried. You're the hometown boy, you know, so.
Until I turned into Wolfie D couldn't be booed, but.
Yeah, he couldn't be. No, impossible. So let me just, since you kind of brought that up, you started at 15 or 16 there. Where were you, you know, it says on Wikipedia, and we're going to, as we do this podcast, we're going to straighten out some things on Wikipedia too, because half the time they're never true. But one of the things that it says is you were born and raised in Nashville, Tennessee. You were born in 73. I'm not trying to put you over, some people don't like their birth date out there, but I'll just put the year. But you were born in Nashville, Tennessee. What do you remember about Nashville when you were a kid?
Nashville was not the same place it is today. I mean, wrestling-wise, you talked about this the other day. My stepfather, my dad, my real dad left when I was like 5, and we went through a couple of dudes here and there. But my stepfather, the guy that raised me, Pete Cannon, a lot of people remember him, the Scorpion around Columbia.
Yeah.
Indies around Nashville. But anyway, he came into my life when I want to say it was around second grade or something like that. I had never watched wrestling in my life, but he was so into it, and I started watching every Saturday morning. I started watching Memphis wrestling, and immediately I fell in love with it. And that's, man, I had a stuffed rat that I used to wrestle with. Like, I stayed at home a lot. My parents both worked and stuff like that, so I'd jump off the damn dresser and do the Jerry Lawler fist drop and whatever else I could do with the rat. I'd be the hell this rat. And it's funny, you hear that now, the rat.
Yeah.
I used to be
it's a little
rat.
different term, right?
Right.
Sure, you had a couple of elbow drops with them, too.
Yeah. So somewhere around that time, man, I just fell in love with it, man. I watched it every Saturday morning, and I don't know, Memphis wrestling was, that was my shit, man. And I also loved WCW when I was little.
Yeah.
Me and my buddy, I'm trying to think, what year was this? Probably about 5th or 6th grade. A friend of mine named Ernest, me and him loved wrestling, but me and him had the same feeling on wrestling of that if you went to WWF, you sold out. Because that was during that time kind of.
Yeah.
And so we were WCW, we were Memphis, we were, all about the blood and guts and all that. If you went to WWF, you sold out.
Right.
So that was
that's how it feels, right?
At that time it did.
Yeah.
But you got to understand, also now as someone who's been there, done that, it's like, well, of course you're going to go there. You're going to sell out because they pay you.
Yeah. And what's awesome, Wolfie, is you've been there. That's the cool thing. And we're going to get into those stories soon, I promise. I can't wait to get into the WWF stuff. Honestly, that was when you kind of came back into my focus. I had seen you in the Memphis, because I'm a mid-Atlantic kid. I grew up in NWA, Jim Crockett, and like you, WCW. But I would trade with tape traders with the Memphis. I would find in the back of the after magazines how to get a hold of Jerry Lawler matches. And I was just like, there's this whole other world that exists, and it blew my mind because it was similar to the NWA, but I always put Memphis up on storylines. Storylines are always important to them.
The thing back then, like even when I was in the business back then, all we had was the dirt sheets to kind of let us know what was going on somewhere else. You didn't have the internet. Now, internet with you can know everything and see everybody. It was so different back then. It was so different.
Yeah. So, and that is how it is. That's, the beauty of Memphis. And so you're a Nashville kid. Memphis, who were the guys you liked growing up? Who did you like? Jerry the King, I would assume. And
I loved Lawler, the Fabulous Ones, and of course the Road Warriors were AWA, but then when they came through here, I made sure to go to the fairgrounds and watch them one night. I like
awesome, man.
God, man, I just can't even tell you how many of those guys I liked, man. They're the Moondogs, and I got to wrestle all of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's hard for, really remembering. I do apologize for that, because I'll tell you that my brain just don't work right no more, and I can't remember everything. But man, there's so many of them that I just grew up wanting to be like. Randy Savage. I mean, if you watch me in the ring, I guarantee you can see a little bit of quite of those few people that I just named.
Definitely, you can. Yeah.
Yeah. And I loved them all. I never got to wrestle Randy. I got to meet him one night. I'll tell you a funny story. Me and Jamie were at Ole Miss, the school. And we did a show there for USWA, and Randy was there. And we ended up, me and Jamie went to this bar. It was a dive bar. There was nobody there except me, Jamie, and Randy. I was surprised there was nobody there. Yeah, but the funny part was he was sitting across the bar. And respectfully, we sat on the other side of the bar.
Yeah.
And he called us over, and he said, "Hey, kids, I liked your stuff. You looked really good." And, of course, being my hero, I mean, God, it about made me want to cry. I was like, holy shit. Right?
Yeah.
There's one thing
that
you need.
Amazing.
We're like, what? We thought we were going to have this big epiphany of what was going to make us superstars. He said, "You got to get bigger." And we said, "Okay. You got to smoke a lot of pot." But that's the story of Randy, man. I remember Tony Falk telling me this, man. Randy, when he was, what was he, Cincinnati Reds or something like that?
Yeah, Cincinnati Reds. Yeah.
He'd just ride around, he'd smoke pot, and he'd eat. And that's what Tony told me. Smoke pot and he'd eat. And so anyway, just coming from Randy Savage, that was probably one of my greatest feelings ever. There was one with Curt, who Curt Hennig came into Memphis one night, and I wrestled. At the time, he was 1-2-3 Kid, Sean Waltman.
Yeah.
And we fucking tore it down, dude. We fucking tore it down.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Curt looked down the hallway at me, and he goes, "Hey, kid." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Incredible bumps." Coming from a guy that made his career on incredible bumps, you know.
He's the god of bumps.
And he was one of my favorites too, man. So, yeah, a couple of cool things there.
Yeah, man, that's amazing. Those are great stories, and we're going to mine more and more and more of those. And I love that I'm getting into the wrinkles of your brain right now. You know, when we officially met, to where I felt like I knew you, you did have a similarity to, like, Hawk of the Road Warriors, I thought. Now, you weren't painting your face, but you had those black pants. I mean, he never had tattoos, but you know what I'm saying. You kind of had that Road Warrior look. Like, you almost were like the third Road Warrior, but an official one, you know? It was an awesome look. And so, you know, like I said, to go on into the little more about you growing up there. Now, did you play sports growing up? Were you a sports guy at all?
I played a lot of baseball. I was very good at baseball and basketball, believe it or not. But in school, high school, I started wrestling because I knew I wanted to be a wrestler, and I thought, all right, if I wrestle, then I'll be better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah, I did wrestle in high school. My 9th grade year, I was the only, and we had a great, our coach, he was like a state champion and shit like that. And he loved me. He was also my science teacher. Only freshman on the team that had a winning record. I had a couple of pins within a minute. I mean, I was good at it, man. And then my sophomore year is where my stepdad and, do you know Rick Reynolds, the medic?
I do. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. He was friends with my stepdad, and they started training with Gypsy Joe. So halfway through my sophomore year, I found this out. I'm like, holy shit, no, I want to wrestle professionally. I don't want to do this no more.
Right.
So I ended up quitting the wrestling team. My science teacher / wrestling coach hated me for it, but I quit school and everything, and I let Gypsy and my stepdad and Rick train me. Honestly, I trained for about, I can't remember. It was like, I don't know, a month, maybe 2 months, something like that. It was in West Nashville. It was a barn, and it was open to the air and everything. It did not have canvas on it. It had carpet. It had garden hose for ropes, and it smelled like cat shit. It just, I mean, it was nasty. Where the rain got in on it, and who knows what. So Rick and my stepdad were training there with Joe, and I found out about it. And I cried to him, man, please take me with you. Please take me with you. And it literally took tears to get them to take me. And I was 15.
Yeah.
And So they finally took me. Dude, I've been watching wrestling for so long, and this was back in the day of VCR, and we had a forehead. I don't know if you would call that, but a forehead.
I do remember that, yeah.
Which would do slow-mo and everything, and I would watch that shit. Oh, my God, I would watch that shit just back and forth, how they do this, how they do this, how they do this. So Joe would show me something, and I'd do it, like, on cue. Boom, boom, boom. And he looked at them both, and he said, he's a natural. We got to put him in the ring. And so by 16, I guess, that was 1989, December 1989. And then I guess by 1990, they had me working in Winchester, Tennessee, under a hood, because for whatever reason they felt like if they found out I was 16, I would get in trouble or something like that. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, that's when I started, and then I don't know how much longer it was after that before I took that hood off, and I was called Airwolf because I could fly.
Airwolf.
And I was
right.
And I took the hood off. At that point, I was somewhat cute or whatever. So yeah, then after that, it was that, and man, I was lucky enough to hook up with people like, do you remember George Weingroff?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I sure do. Yeah.
And his brother Herbie, his dad was Saul. Saul was a huge star back in the days. George was legally blind. He wrestled for the School of the Blind and was an incredible amateur wrestler for the School for the Blind, whatever. But he took a liking to me, and he could go. So I got lucky in that day and age, man. There were guys that could go, and they could teach a young kid. And so I hooked up with people like him, and you know, just I got lucky, man. I really did get lucky. And then after that, Chris Champion was another one that took me under his wing. You know, he was kind of coming down from that scandal he had as the Turtle and all that kind of BS.
Right.
But he was so awesome. And me and him had a creativity click. And like before me and Jamie did the Cyberpunks, me and Chris were coming up with this idea of the Cyberpunks.
Right.
But then to Mexico is when I actually created the drawings and had this guy design them all for us down there. But anyway, so people like George and people like Chris and the Barroom Brawlers and Gypsy Joe and just people that at 15 and 16, 17 years old, I was getting to work with these guys that had been in the business forever. And it's like, fuck, you just go out there and you just hands-on, you learn. You know
right. I mean? You were the College of Wrestling Knowledge right there.
Absolutely.
Gypsy Joe is absolute, you know, not only a Japanese legend, he is well known up until the time he unfortunately passed as the oldest professional wrestler ever. And he was actually in a WWE book about that. And long story short, how was it training with him? You know, I don't want to say your stepdad or anybody would have taken it easy on you, but I can't imagine Gypsy Joe taking it easy on you, you know?
No, but I'll be honest with you, man. Joe was always... I don't mean this to sound wrong, but Joe always had a thing for my mom.
Okay. Okay.
He no, there was nothing like that, but
sure,
he always took it easy on me. But he always had good matches with me, and then like training and stuff. He knew that I had the ability, and man, I'll never forget, man. Okay, before I worked him the first time, he was either my first or my third match. I can't remember. But there was this guy in Tennessee that Joe got, and Joe was just like, you know him. He'll get pissed off and he'll beat the fuck out of you.
Right, exactly.
And I watched that and I was like, holy fuck. And I'm a kid. I'm 16 years old and I know I got to work him the next week. And we went out there, man. And he didn't even, you know, Joe's known for his chops and all that shit.
Right.
He never chopped me once. he backed me in the corner. He licked his fingers and he said, "You're okay, kid." And he forearmed me. Yeah. And that's when I was like, you know what I mean?
Right.
That was awesome.
Right. You just passed the first level of college there.
Right.
You know, now you were talking about the Chris Champion too. Now, I know he had that bad accident there when he was with the Jim Crockett Promotions, and I remember hearing about that. And, you know, I remember those guys coming in, and they were kind of put together with the Rock and Roll Express, and I was like, these guys are amazing. And then it makes total sense that you and he would have clicked as well, because, you know, it was like the young up-and-coming studs of the industry. Yeah. And I know he is so well thought of in that area, especially the Columbia area. Shane Morton loves him, talks about him all the time, you know, and to know that it makes total sense that you and he would have clicked, though. You know, that's cool information, you know.
Yeah, very cool. I loved Chris, man. I really did.
And it seems like anybody that knew him did, you know. So that's awesome.
He was a great dude, and I mean, I know he had his issues, and you know what I'm saying. I mean,
of course, yeah.
But he was a good man. He really was.
Yeah, and we all have our issues. We're a judgment-free zone on the Wolfie D podcast here. So, you know, the one thing, you know, talking about that, and so leading to your first match, how do you feel like you did in your first few matches there? Some people think, oh, man, I was horrible, and some people thought, well, you know, I was getting it, you know, at least I was learning. Even though I felt like I was horrible, I was moving, you know. So.
Okay, as far as, like, how did I look? I mean, I was a 16-year-old kid.
Right.
So, you know, like, I know my shit looked good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
Anything I did looked good. But did I get it? Hell no. I didn't get it till, I didn't get it till about, I don't know, probably USWA, man, when I got to work with Danny Davis every fucking night. That's when I got
it. Oh, my God. That's the nightmare. Yeah.
Different steps and to where you get it. It's like, okay, this is how to put a good match together. And then there's that other point of this is how you talk and this is how you draw money. There's a few steps there. Mm-hmm. So it took me, I can have a decent match since the get-go, but Danny taught me how to actually work. Danny Davis is one of the baddest freaking workers you can ever imagine. I'm telling you.
Right.
He'd hip toss me, and as I'm in the air, he'd be calling my next move, and that's when I was like, okay, this is how we do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
That's later, and me and him used to have to go 30, 60-minute Broadways all the time.
That's amazing. And the nightmares were great.
Let's take a quick time out and get a word from one of my dope-ass sponsors, and we'll be right back with more Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
It's only a kick, a jump, a block. It's only a serve. It's only a tackle, a run. It's only for the fans. After all, it's only pressure. You got this. Adidas.
Hey folks, to get your official Live and in Color with Wolfie D merchandise, go to ProWrestlingTees.com/Live Wolfie D. Check it out.
If you're listening to Live and in Color with Wolfie D on Apple Podcast and like what you're hearing, go ahead and leave a 5-star rating. And while you're at it, write a review. Tell us what you liked. Tell us what you'd like to hear in the future. It's very important to us and always appreciated. Thanks again.
If you were to compare it to now, and I would never want to compare anything then and now because it's such a different industry, but if you were to compare the Performance Center to what you came up in with cat feces and the open air barn, I mean, can you imagine some of these newer kids having to go through that? Would they even stay in the business, you know?
I know, man. And man, the thing is, I actually just messaged this kid the other day. I don't know him from Adam, but there was something on Facebook. And honestly, I used to not believe this when I was in the business and Ricky Morgan would tell me, I don't watch wrestling.
Yeah, right.
Like, yeah, right. Well, I don't. I do not watch wrestling.
Right.
Only thing I see is stuff that may be posted on Facebook, or I'll go back and watch some old shit or something like that, you know, just to kind of reminisce or whatever. Right. And usually it's fucking me. I guess I'm an egomaniac.
Right.
Anyway, I messaged this kid the other day and I was like, man, I said, kid, your athleticism and everything is so incredible. I said, but please, I said, the formula will never go away. I said, sell that shit. You could have got 20 more minutes out of that match than what y'all did. I said, y'all did some amazing things and shit that I can't even do. I said, but brother, just fucking sell it. Fucking sell it.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
I don't know if it's lost or not, or, you know, they like to talk about Cornette being out of touch and different people being out of touch. I mean, hell, maybe I am. I don't know. But to me, there was always those times when I've had people tell me directly, said, man, I know what y'all do is, you know, this, that, and the other. But there was this one time where I saw you and so-and-so do this, and I knew y'all were pissed.
Right.
Most of when they say that to me, it was not correct. We were not pissed. We were just working.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
you know what I mean?
Beauty of it. You know, you worked it to where they could suspend their belief just enough to where they knew the match before you wasn't right. You know, I think I've heard the story that Johnny Valentine one time said, you don't have to believe that wrestling is real, but by God, you have to believe that I'm real, you know, and to me, you know, and that to me reminds me of what you just said there. That's the cool part about getting to know someone like you who has been through so much, because to me, I start to say faces and heels and marks and all this stuff. And then I think, man, I don't even know if I can talk that way, because when it's like everyday conversation, what you guys used in the back, it kind of feels like undeserved a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And I know a lot of people do it now. So,
man, I promise you, there's been a number of times where I've come back from the ring and I've had the boys convinced that I was hurt.
Yeah.
You know, several things like that. There was one night when me and Jamie were doing the Smoky Mountain USWA thing in Louisville,
which I love that feud. Oh my gosh, that feud was amazing.
Got everything. The medics, because they had medics on hand at the Louisville Gardens, they actually ran out there and treated us as if we were fucked up, and we were not. But they treated us as and they were convinced. So, you know what I mean? There's been a number of times I've done like that where I think I don't know if I think I sent that to somebody else. But me and Bordell Walker, do you know that traditional championship wrestling that was
was it in Missouri or something? Arkansas?
Missouri, yeah. His name, can't think of the guy's name right this second. Anyway, he ran it, loads of money. This shit had very much potential, but as usual, when it looks like that, it usually goes to shit. Anyway, point being, me and Vordell had a match, and he did a running knee lift on me, And I sold that motherfucker like I was knocked out, man. And I came back to the back, and they're like, "You okay? You okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm good. It's not at work."
Right. And that's the other part of it too. You know, when you're working the boys, that's kind of hilarious. That's even more funny. You know.
Oh, it's way better.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that because you had kind of you came to Saw just for a little bit. I think maybe just because you were in town, and then you went on to traditional championship wrestling, and you were like, "Man, this is legit." I remember you talking about that. He was like, "He's got it together and it's going." And I remember seeing the videos, and man, it was shot beautifully, well done. Cameras, lighting was great.
I mean, it could have been good, but what happened was just like every other time. I saw this so many times. They want to start booking their friends and let their friends book it. Yeah. And sorry, but here's my take on that is, do you want somebody coaching your team that has never been to the Super Bowl?
Exactly.
You know,
I mean, exactly.
That's what they do, man. Yeah. Yes, there's been these little companies that got money and all this kind of stuff, but you've got to have been there, done that, and like it used to be in the old days. They used to say, "Don't get rabbit ears."
Right.
Don't listen to the people, and I mean, because there's the only way to go is up from down, and just just different little things like that. Just I don't know. I think it. Yeah. And the business too, but
yeah. You know, it's funny, and we're going to talk about so much. The people, you know, you got to download, you got to follow us on Apple and Spotify. You got to download the episodes so you have them. You can set all that to automatically download. There's so much gold to mine just in the mind of Wolfie D that I can't even wait. And today part of this is not only an introduction to you as a reintroduction of you, but also I want to set the record straight on some things. Some people have maybe some misconceptions of Wolfie D that I want to make pretty much 100% understood. The other thing is I want this to be fun for you, to where you get to kind of relive things and your grandkids can listen to this, you know, and something that'll be a history book for you in audio form. One thing I did have a question on, this is going to kind of, you know, we have a few more things to talk about, but this is going to kind of wrap up the majority of the podcast here, is what led you and Jamie to PG-13? What got that together? You set the record straight on that. What led you guys together?
So we were, I think I was 17 or something like that, and we were in Hartsville, Tennessee. Me, him, Chris Michaels.
Love Chris. He's a great guy, too.
Worked there every, I don't know if it was Saturday night or whatever. But anyway, I was working as Airwolf, and then I started doing this medic gimmick. But then me and Chris Champion started talking, and he was doing this Ugly Kid Joe gimmick.
Okay.
It made me kind of come up with Wolfie D. Just Wolfie D. Okay. I was a rapper that did whatever, little white rapper.
Yeah.
And so then we were in Shelbyville one night, and Chris said, "Man, you two need to be a tag team." And because he was already JC Ice Baby, you know, with USWA or whatever.
Right.
Said, "You need to be a tag team." And so we kind of formed that. Jamie put on the shorts. He was JC Ice. I was Wolfie D. And the funniest part about that is I was sitting on the toilet one day. I was up with names. And if you remember NWA, the rap group,
yes, I do.
Discretion is advised for the moment.
Right.
So I came up with PG-13. I had Hip Hop Express. I had all this wrote down on a piece of paper. I used to have it. I don't know where it's at now, but anyway, I came up with PG-13. And everybody's like, "Yeah, that's great. That's great." And then we go to Shelbyville that Thursday, and Chris said, because first we used to carry the first song we used to come out to was Prince's Kiss.
Okay.
I think that's the name of the song. Kiss. I don't know if that's the name of it or not.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. I love it.
Yeah, and we used to carry the album out with us, and we'd hit people with it.
Beautiful.
Well, Chris was like, I need something better than that. And so, if you've ever been to Shelbyville, the locker room was filled with junk. It was like a junkyard. And so we found a hubcap in there and some spray paint, and we spray painted PG-13 on an aluminum hubcap. It had a chain around it. We had a chain, you know. And so that's what we used for our finish, and that's where that came from. So that's kind of where that came from, man. Chris did it, man.
That's cool, man. That's cool because, you know, you and Jamie fit so well together. Because I know, you know, some of the unknown things about Wolfie D is Wolfie's got some hands, too. And Jamie's got the mouth. Now, I'm not saying Jamie can't handle himself. That's not my place to say. But Wolfie had the hands and Jamie's got the mouth. What a combination. I've even seen a recent video that you and I commented on that you had to have the hands in. That was something great to see, too. But, you know, people always talk about the tough guys in the business and stuff, but it's nice to be able to have hands because you have to, you know. But got off on another subject. We'll talk about the tough guys later on. But one thing that you said just brought up what I thought when I was younger. When I first saw you guys, I thought you were the next evolution of the Rock and Roll Express. So you had the Rock and Roll Express who were either fans of Motley Crue, Poison, Bon Jovi, or they were in a band like Poison, you know, that kind of thing. You, however, were the next step because at the time rock and roll had kind of died and white kids and in the suburbs, hood kids too, that were listening to hip hop only. And you guys were the next, you know, evolution of what I consider the Rock and Roll Express. The Rockers were a ripoff or whatever, but you guys were not a ripoff. You were like the next step. And I always thought that was cool.
Why the angle worked when it was PG versus rock and roll. I mean, that thing in Louisville we did, it was kind of passing of the torch, man. It's like they put us over on that. And, dude, there was thousands of people there. And Louisville Gardens hadn't seen a house that big in so long. And there was thousands of people there, man. And when we won that match, man, that place went fucking crazy, man. It was nuts. It gives me chill bumps to this moment to just think about that. God, that was awesome. And
that is awesome. Yeah. We're gonna, you know, and kids, it's on YouTube. You can watch the USWA versus Smoky Mountain Wrestling. I think somebody even made a playlist. I promise you, it is worth your time. Every bit of it. You get to see the late great Tracy Smothers, rest in peace. You know, you get to see so many cool things. The Rock and Roll Express and also PG-13 and all the USWA stars. The cool thing I liked about it was you were two regional territories, not 3 hours from each other, maybe 4 hours, Knoxville to Memphis. But anyway, it was so close, but y'all were still so far away, and it was amazing. So we're going to have a whole couple of episodes on that.
The problem was, the real problem was that, okay, so Vince bought up all the territories. Memphis was the last one to go out of business, but we hit this high point with this Smoky Mountain USWA thing and brought houses up to recording records. I mean, you can ask, Randy Hales can tell you that. The money, we brought it up. So they were about to go out of business in 93, and then Randy gave me and Jamie the shove, and we brought the houses up. We started the Smoky Mountain thing. But Smoky Mountain went out of business first. We were going to go there and do the same thing we did in Memphis, but they went out of business, and it was like, fuck, man. Huge business.
Because you all were the battling territories. You were like it was like the Wild West, and you were Billy the Kid, and they were Jesse James, and it was the last two gunfighters, you know. Some people call ECW a territory, and they are in their own right. But really, when they became, extreme, and we'll talk about them too, as you guys had a great run there too. We will cover them as well. But in those territory days, you all were the last desperados, and it was cool. And to see them go out, was sad because that meant, there was only a few more wrestling companies going. And
absolutely.
You were outdrawing Vince in certain areas because of your long runs, and then you all had them so hot, and then to feel it die like that. I mean, what were you thinking at that time? Like, how did you feel about that?
I mean, that's kind of a hard question because there was a point where Jamie and I were working for Vince, Paul, and USWA all at the same time. We were nights a week. We were going everywhere.
Right.
And that was kind of the end point or whatever. You know what I mean? That was kind of the end point for every. Yeah, so it was kind of weird. I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, I get it because some things are going to be unanswered just because they're too hard to describe, and I get that. I really appreciate you, Wolfie. I think we've got some great starts here. I think we've got a cool place to wrap it up, but I do want to cover some things. I do know you have a couple things coming up, some signings and some places that people can see you. What do you have coming up? Where can people see you?
November something another. You caught me off guard there.
We'll get a date for it for sure. We'll have it on.
It's one of those conventions in New York or something like that, and Wrestle Fest or something like that in November. I got that. I've got they're giving me a spot in a haunted house in Maryville the weekend before Slash will be he'll have his own little room where he'll be killing people.
Excellent. That's so cool.
Yeah.
We'll get the dates on that, folks. I will.
Yeah, I'll get the date on it. We got wrestling minis coming out. We got a few things coming. A box set of baseball cards.
Awesome. Cards are huge right now, and those minis are too. So you guys will sell a ton of those. That's awesome. Also, you're on Facebook as Warren Wolf. That is your personal page. Yep. We also have the podcast page, so it's Live and in Color with Wolfie D Podcast. You guys go follow that. You'll have all the news coming up about the podcast. Also, we have a YouTube page. Now, the YouTube page is a secondary page to the podcast. Our podcast is number one. Make sure you download that on your favorite podcast. If you're a Spotify, if you're a Google, if you're a Apple, whatever, download it there, follow us, and make sure you subscribe to the podcast. But also go to the YouTube page and subscribe and follow there. We're going to have some live stuff. Wolfie's a great promo. He sells cars and shoots promos. He shoots a promo at the grocery store probably, but at the same time, he's a great promo. We're going to have some legitimate, exclusives on YouTube as well, so don't miss out on there. Wolfie, again, it's been a great conversation today. What we have right now is a start, but in the future, we're going to have your next few, podcast episodes. We're going to have the continuation of PG-13. We're going to have your time with the Nation of Domination. You were rapping live on the microphone, walking out. That's a cool story in itself. We'll have all those things up and coming and more.
Yeah, that time I got hit in the face with a beer and I kept going.
Yeah. Yes. And we'll find that video and share that on our YouTube page as well. But
I'd love to see that. It turned my glasses sideways, but I kept going. I didn't miss a beat.
Well, that's how the pros do it, baby. That's how the pros do it. So, Wolfie, is there anything else you'd like to add for the people today?
No, man. I've got some commitments from some of my friends, Gangrel, Lawler, Sin Bodie, that will come on here and talk with us. So,
oh man, that's huge. And see, that's the other thing. When we're not wanting to just talk about Wolfie, sometimes we'll bring on some of his friends, and his friends will blow the world away. So that's the beauty of it. I mean, to know the fact that we can get Jerry Lawler, Sin Bodie, we can get Gangrel, like they're already committed. We just got to figure out the dates. That's amazing for this podcast. So if you don't have anything else, Wolfie, I'm going to leave them with this. We're live and in color with Wolfie D. I'm your host, Jimmy Street. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks, brother.
And now a word from our sponsor.
Getting engaged is a moment worth cherishing. A one-of-a-kind ring that you design at Blue Nile can help your love sparkle. Just choose your diamond and setting. When you've found the one, you'll get it delivered right to your door. Finding the right engagement ring can be nerve-wracking. At Blue Nile, you'll have the expert guidance needed and a diamond guarantee that ensures you're getting the highest quality at the best price. Cherish all of life's moments and save up to 30% at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Sheik, Jared, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all, and all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling! Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
This is The Big Picture, Michael Jablonski. Don't forget to tune in every week to Jablonski's Pissed Off on the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling YouTube channel.
What's wrong with this sport? He's gonna tell you all about it. He doesn't care what you think. You're gonna hear all about it. Mike Jablonski. He's so pissed off. Mike Jablonski. He's so pissed off. Mike Jablonski. He's so pissed off. He's pissed off.
In a world that has been completely divided for so long, two movie fans have decided to unite for the people and the betterment of mankind. One, an action movie buff. The other, a horror movie fanatic. Together, they will try to bridge the gap of both genres into one podcast with their battle cry, Give Me Back My Action and Horror Movies. Listen along as Charlie and Nate alternate each week talking about action and horror movies they cherish, mostly from the VHS era. Also, including some modern examples that felt like the movies they grew up with by answering the battle cry, Give Me Back My Action and Horror Movies. Available wherever you listen to podcasts. Look them up on Facebook and Instagram.
I got a cap for your dome.
He got a cap for your dome.
I got a cap for your dome.
He got a cap for your dome.
He got a cap
for your dome.
And here we go. The original white boy that came out sagging, not bragging, don't be hating, cause I'm spitting the truth. Still livin' in color. Plum rush your mother, utilize a hubcap unlike any other. Back in the day, I was N-O-D, and I was P to the G, plus the 1 and the 3. In case you forgot, they call me Wolfie D. Been cloned and copied so many times, tired of suckers taking credit for what is mine. You know who you are without me name dropping. Wrestling's first white boy coming out hip-hop. Been doing it like this since 92. Laid low for a while and you thought I was through. Listen real close to these rhymes that I've injected. This shit's so sick it makes your ears get infected. Mad skills, no faking, there is no one great. Cause I'm bringing more folks than Obi-Wan or Vader. Not here to play games, so you better beware. You don't like me, so what? I really don't care. Like time I keep ticking and I can't be stopped. You sucker step to the side unless you wanna get dropped. With my finish, I'll straight knock you out. Please allow me to tell you what it's all about. I'm gonna wind it up, then I'm driving it home. It's Wolfie D, baby. I got a cap for your dome. I got a cap for your dome.
We got a cap for your dome. We got a cap for your dome.
This has been a James Rock Street production.